Julius has to choose between life and death. Will Julius let his prisoners swim to shore? Or will Julius kill them? If even one of those prisoners escapes, Julius will lose his life. It's a simple choice, really. A choice between saving your own life or someone else's. Yes, it's murder in cold blood. But desperate times demand desperate action. Fortuna is a whimsical goddess. She helps those who help themselves. How did Julius arrive at this moment? His journey begins so innocently. He receives orders to escort a prisoner to Rome. It hardly seems worthy for a man like Julius. He's conquered countless battlefields. He's climbed the chain of command. He has a century of soldiers under his control. And who is this prisoner? A member of the tribe of Hebrews. Those people have caused so much trouble in this corner of the empire. But Julius can see that this prisoner is no threat, either to Julius or to the empire. Julius's army has this prisoner's homeland under tight control, because Julius's gods are bigger than this prisoner's gods. That's why when they arrive at the port of Sidon, Julius lets his prisoner go ashore to visit with his friends. Julius and his prisoner continue their journey, making slow but steady progress along the coastline until they reach the port of Myra. That's where Julius makes his first fateful choice. He could remain on the ship and continue their journey along the coast until they reach the highway Egnatia, and then to continue their journey over land. It's a much safer option than sailing for Rome. But it is a long and hard hike up and down steep mountains. The other choice is to switch ships and to sail directly to Rome. Julius finds an Egyptian cargo ship bound for Rome. It is a huge ship with 276 passengers on board. An experienced crew of sailors is piloting it. Julius makes his choice. He and his prisoner will go directly to Rome by sea, not by land. But as soon as they set sail, the wind changes directions. The sailors have a difficult time making progress. They have to turn away from the shore towards the sea. They won't make it to Rome before the winter, but they can find a safe harbor on the island of Crete. The ship makes painfully slow progress along the island's coast until it reaches the port of Fair Havens. That's where Julius makes his second fateful choice. Fair Havens is not a fair place for a huge cargo ship to spend the winter. The ship's owner wants to find a better harbor. It's all about the money. He wants to protect his investment. The ship's captain agrees with the owner, who is paying the salaries of his crew. That's when the prisoner stands up in front of everyone. He says, "I can see that our voyage will be disastrous and result in great loss to ship and cargo and to our own lives as well." Disastrous? Loss? Aren't they just going to sail along the coast? It's not like they're headed out to the open sea. That would be suicide at this time of year. Julius and the rest of the passengers ignore this prisoner's advice. They wait. And after a little while, they get what they want. A gentle breeze blowing from the south that lets them stay close to the shore. Let's take a step back from this story for a minute. Why do things happen the way they do? Why does a global pandemic wipe out millions of lives and damage the world's economy? Why does your child get sick? Why does your mother or your spouse suffer from diabetes or high blood pressure? Is it fate? Bad luck? And what about God? What's He doing about it? You pray to Him for help, but you don't receive an answer. So when times are tough, you help yourself. You rely on your own resources. Desperate times demand desperate actions. You make your choice, and then you have to live with the consequences. Because no matter how carefully you consider all your options, no matter how many people you seek advice from, life can change in an instant. You were going to harvest your best crop of maize, and then came the drought and the army worms. You invested your savings in your best friend's business, and then your best friend disappeared. You were just going to sail a few kilometers along the coast, and then that gentle breeze from the south turned into a hurricane from the north that blew you away from land. Your big ship doesn't seem so big in the open sea. The closest shore is 300 kilometers away. The sailors do what they know. They tie ropes around the boat to protect it. They drop an anchor, trying to snag something on the bottom of the sea. They throw the cargo overboard. Money doesn't help you if you're dead. After 3 days, they lose sight of the sun and the stars. They lose their navigation. They lose hope. That's when the prisoner makes his second speech. You should have listened to my advice not to sail from Crete. Oh, don't you hate people who say, "I told you so"? But the prisoner continues. Not one of you will suffer loss to your lives. Only the ship will be destroyed. How does he know? Last night, an angel of the God whose I am and who I serve said, "Do not be afraid, for God has graciously given to you the lives of all those who sail with you." Who is this man that the gods send their messenger to him? Who is this God who pays attention to this man? this God whom he serves, who he belongs to. For 2 weeks, the storm blows the ship across the open sea. Then, in the middle of the night, the sailors sense that they are approaching a coastline. Oh, bad luck! To run ashore in the dark when you can't see where you're going. The sailors do what they know. They throw 4 anchors overboard. They pray for daylight. They don't pray for rescue, because it wouldn't help anyway. Their gods are too busy getting drunk or fighting with each other to pay attention to the prayers of these sailors. Some of the sailors try to escape in a lifeboat. The lifeboat isn't big enough for all 276 passengers, but then desperate times demand desperate actions. But the prisoner tells Julius that unless these men remain on the ship, they will die. So Julius orders his soldiers to cut the ropes holding the lifeboat, and it falls into the sea. Then the prisoner tells his fellow passengers, "Do not be afraid. Take some food and eat it, you for strength, for you will all survive." The prisoner takes some bread, he breaks it, and he says a prayer of thanks to his God. Who thanks the gods before the gods have given their answer? Then the dawn breaks, and they see a sandy beach in front of them. The sailors do what they know to prepare the ship, but it's no use. The ship is stuck in a sandbar. The storm is smashing the back of the boat into splinters. This ship has made its final voyage, and now Julius has arrived at his fateful choice. The soldiers want to kill the prisoners and say they drowned in the shipwreck. The soldiers just want to save their own lives. But Julius wants to save the life of this prisoner. What has Julius seen or heard that makes this prisoner's life worth saving? Julius thinks about the choices that he's made leading up to this moment. The only reason that Julius and his soldiers are still alive has nothing to do with the choices he's made or the skills of the sailors. Julius thinks about his gods, who never pay attention to him unless he offers them a sacrifice of a sheep or a cow. And maybe that's just as well, because when the gods take notice of someone, usually it doesn't end very well. And Julius thinks about the God of this prisoner, who he belongs to, who he serves, the God who this prisoner thanks in the middle of a storm. So even though desperate times demand desperate actions, Julius stops his soldiers from killing the prisoners. Julius doesn't try to save his own life. Instead, Julius trusts this prisoner's God and his promises. Now, human beings haven't changed at all in the last 2,000 years. Desperate people still make desperate actions. They sin and justify themselves, saying it's in their own best interests. But you and I belong to the same God that prisoner belonged to. It's the God who captured that man on the road to Damascus and set him free from his past. It's the God who cares what happens here on earth, so much so that he became a human being, not to cause trouble or to father children, but to offer himself as a sacrifice in our place. He had a choice. He could have chosen between saving his own life or saving ours. But this God did not bail ship on Calvary. This is the God who tells us, "Remain in me, and not one of you will be lost." That's why we serve this God with all our heart and soul and strength. And that's why we serve our fellow human beings, even when there's no advantage in it for us. We don't have to choose between saving ourselves or saving the lives of someone else. We trust the God who has rescued us from desperate choices and a hopeless future. And we trust that this God will escort us all the way to the end of our journey. Julius's prisoner survives the shipwreck. He swims to shore, and almost as soon as he lands, a poisonous snake bites this prisoner on his hand. But this prisoner's God keeps him safe. Eventually, this prisoner arrives in Rome. And then this prisoner gives his testimony to the most powerful man in the world. And sometime after that, no one really knows exactly when, this prisoner ends his journey in the arena and goes home to his God. That's where we're all headed. We don't know if our journey will end with a wreck at sea or on land or in a hospital bed, or when our King returns in glory. But the outcome is certain. Trust the God whose prisoner you are. Amen.